on the other side of this is there is a need for that to create a blame. A lot of people, and I was just as in the same place when I was still maintaining my human aspect and didn't know anything of the higher. I used the detail to hide myself from
Mm,
myself.
mm,
Now, if that spell hadn't been there, if that hadn't been available to me, I wouldn't have been able to hide.
interesting.
But I wished to hide.
Interesting.
So our dark captors gave me what I needed to be able to hide from myself. That was kind of benevolent of them.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I would have been able to. Blah, 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 blah. So what I'm trying to say here is that a lot of this is being created because the people want it,
We want to have that experience. We want to have that exploration,
not
right?
have it. This has been happening for many millennia.
Yeah.
It's a choice that the prison is more comfortable than the freedom. So it's the
Mm,
Stockholm syndrome, for want of a better word. It's
mm,
the
mm,
uh, I've got comfortable here. I am now less than I've ever been, but this is where I'm happy. And
mhm,
when one say, "Well, would you like to come out and experience?" No, 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 no. I'm happy in here, and it's a self-choice then. So a lot of this is through self-choice and self-creation, and
mhm,
the reflection of the control mechanisms enable that. So if, without the belief system of the people, none of this would be here. So yes, we can blame the others and we can say that they've done all of this, but really there's also another section of this which is they were there's an allowance, there's an acceptance, there's a lack of uprising, there's a lack, all of these different things. Not that I'm saying it's just a dance, it's an energetic dance. And as soon as humanity, the higher versions come together and unite, the dark ones disappear.
mhm.
It's not they have any power, they don't. The only thing that they've got is a belief system by humanity that they're required.
Exactly.
So it's the belief that is maintaining the limitation at this point. Self-belief, collective belief, it doesn't matter. This is the restriction is being maintained through the belief in it. And that's the lack of the belief in self. So that's projected outwards. The lack of belief, the valueless, the worthlessness which ones carry, their lack of control, their emotional instability is projected outwards, and outwardly we see that representation. Everywhere is illogical, everywhere is anti-life, but so is the dark area within that hasn't been shown love yet.
Mhm, mhm,
So we're seeing this representation, and a lot of this changes, of course, when belief systems are released.
mhm.
Acceptance chosen over fight. So yeah, a little bit of an aside there. Not
Okay.
not defending the dark ones because they are gone and vanquished in the end of the day, but showing that there is also an agreement
Mhm.
um, by ones that they prefer it kind of in their
Yeah,
resistance.
exactly. So when you were speaking about the GPMS and people wanting to stay in their, in their thing, what they have. So it's like, um, everybody wants a new house. They want a new kitchen, but nobody wants to go through the renovation phase. Because it's messy.
Oh,
It's all of that stuff. It's what do they call it? Divorce dust. How many couples can't they just that's it, they're done because they can't bring the higher awareness, the compassion, the understanding of going through the process, letting go of that which no longer serves them, and accepting gradually, slowly, most graciously what can occur. So anyway, that's kind of how I see it. I always think, do I really want to redo my kitchen? Do I really want to start that now? Or can I wait? But on a grand
well,
scale, I mean, we all know that this is gone. Like you're saying, the dark ones are gone. We've already started the demolition has started a long time ago. We're in the choosing the appliances and the paint colors phase.
yeah, effectively, with many arguing about the correct spelling of the paint can,
Yeah.
or this, that, and the other, and then you
Yeah.
know, that paintbrush, I don't like that one. That one's
Yeah.
got five too many bristles. There's
Yeah.
50,000 bristles on it, yeah, but there's five too many on that one, and that one's got 20 less. No,
Yeah.
no, no, we want the detail, as opposed to, but this is where safety is found in because everything seems so complex, everything seems so big.
Yeah.
Safety is found in the minute,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's triviality. It's not. That's
Exactly.
not the truth.
So you said earlier the devil is in the details. So one of the questions that I had in my little list that got given to me this morning is because I had a little bit of an experience, and Rick's going to know what I'm talking about, and so will any of my friends watching this. I had a little experience with some demons. So we all know the word demon, but you know, what are they and what purpose have they served? What is going on there?
You're asking me?
I
Okay, I've got
am.
different aspects. Daemon or demon? No, I'm not. I'm not. I would openly state that I'm probably not the best one to speak to about this. There's benevolence, there's divine benevolence inside their actions, so that others wake up. But in the previous time, when there was no divine relevance to them, they were demonic, inverted. I'm not going to go into any more because it would be guesswork for I don't. It's not
Mhm.
part of my specialities, if you will. I've met a few. They showed themselves to I, and subsequently got taken off the playing field,
Mm.
vanquished. They may still be around, but the demonic representation is gone. Whether or not they can't, they've got no more power.
Mhm.
They've got no more sway. So they come forward and show themselves to ones to enlighten them at this point, and they're on a divine scale. So this is divinely controlled. They're not here for dark, nefarious actions. They're here to uplift others through their actions. And once they've completed, or once their tasks are done and they are of no value, no more value, they are vanquished from existence.
Mhm.
This is a case of severe violations of higher divinity. So these ones are no use to creation at all. So they will be removed from it and go back to source energy to be
Yeah.
reallocated.
They're not just
Blah blah blah.
obliterated. They there's a process of rehabilitation or whatever. There's I mean
No,
there's benevolent no,
no,
no.
no. The dark ones, there is no process of rehabilitation because there is no light.
So that
These
but
are
they
pure
do go
dark
back to source. They can't be obliterated because everything is matters, everything is energy. They exist, right? But they can be
energy. They go back to energy. But they can't reform in any of the
right,
old forms. They can be
right.
utilized as anything else. Yes, they
Okay.
go back to constituent parts. That's a better way of putting it. They lose identity and go back to a
A primal,
constituent
yeah,
part.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I agree
So
with
a
that.
demon, let's say for instance, a demonic entity could end up being a trillion hydrogen molecules
Hmm.
to go back as a hydrogen constituent that
Yeah,
would then be parts of a trillion water molecules. But none
exactly.
of the demonic is continued with it. It's wiped and starts afresh as a
Right,
new building block of creation,
right. Good.
new energetic entity. But yes, no, the dark ones are there's no rehabilitation for any of the dark. They got rid they were they judged themselves by their actions quite a long time ago, and they have no further benefit except to wake up the rest of our brothers and
Right.
sisters through their own actions and then be released from existence, as they are
Well,
they're no good to the light.
yeah, let me tell
Um,
you, I had a couple wake me up good and proper a few days ago. So
but they may be
no,
what they may
I
be is
got
they're
rid of
not.
them. I got rid of them. It's good. It's all good. It's all good.
What I'm saying is the demonic can act upon the negative energies within the physical of the light version. So that you could have a soul that's here but vibrating at a very low level, and the demonic attaches to that low level of vibration and feeds them information that they act upon.
Mm, mm,
So they're acting upon demonic input through a sort of contractual agreement. The demon enters, but the individual believes the demonic story and
mhm.
then tries to manipulate blame externally so that the demon can be fed by the misery of others. The creation of darker energies by others, by this one saying you did all of this and you did all of that and acting in this way. It manipulates reality to create a negative environment, and the demon can feed on that. If there is no negative environment for the demon to feed on, it tends to feed on the individual, and therefore they will drop into despair or into a very low state
Right.
because they believe the stories that were created through the inversion. They didn't get any joy outside. The stories still need to be fed. So they lose their own light into that area. So
Yeah.
there is, in my experience, there are what I would call demonic, almost like piggybacking
Yeah.
the frequency of individual.
But then
Demonic
again,
distortions.
yeah, sorry, but then again, you know, we're as a supreme consciousness, in this case, I believe the individual that had this attached to them, and I got rid of them, was there to actually teach a lesson, or they wanted to learn. They wanted to learn about fear. And so this was a subconscious contractual agreement to take this on so that it could
Yeah.
be overcome, right?
Yes. So this is the divine benevolence, and
Exactly.
this is the divine to almost kickstart one's, or yeah, amplify the alarm clock, to
Exactly.
release that negativity, to see it, to go into it, to witness it, to evidence it, to observe it, and then transmute it. Certain aspects of the experience requires ones to see things and undergo things chosen by their own soul, to uplift them, upscale them. So not everybody needs to see a lot of this stuff. They can do it without it, but some need to see it very severely, for that to happen. And of course, these negative entities are being utilized divinely for that purpose.
Exactly.
Um, to what degree, that's on the divine plan and God given, creator given. I don't look into detail of that. I just see the purpose and the function and release it into that. I don't need to know on a one-on-one scale what's going on with that. We can see that it happens, and we can see that it has a benevolent function at the outcome, at the end. What happens in the middle doesn't matter. It's what it becomes afterwards. So we get stuck on this form in the middle. Well, it was terrible. It was this. It was that. It was the other. But what happened? Oh, it's brilliant in the end. Yeah, really, really good. So why was it terrible through it? Why was it terrible through it if it's brilliant at the end? Well, it was really hard. It was really worth it. Well, just say that then.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
take away all of the detail.
Yeah, yeah. Is the glass half full or is it half empty, right? You know?
It's still got something in it.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
the concept is to be able to, people like to describe things as hard or difficult or wonderful and joyful and loving. And all of these words are descriptors. They're all meaningless, absolutely meaningless. At the end of the day, we were speaking a bit earlier about I was speaking in a different meeting about happiness and joy. And they say, I wish happiness and joy upon others. And I said, okay, describe happiness? Describe joy. Because you can't. They're
No,
subjective.
that's right.
And what they all mean is the same thing, at peace. It's just different layers of experience that we're calling something. And we don't need to, because they're all valuable. To give it a higher designation. I wish you to be happy. What? As opposed to sad.
Yeah.
What? What's wrong with sad? Can you
Yeah.
not learn anything from why negate sad? It's got a very good learning to why wish everybody to be, everybody to be content. But inside content, there's why not delve into sadness and a
Mm,
little bit of the lower versions to find out what they are, to experience them, and to release them.
mm.
There's nothing to negate.
Yeah,
So wishing one's higher than
yeah,
pointless.
Leah, I wasn't going to bring this up, but now that we've touched on it, I just recently lost a very, very, very beloved pet, and it was very sudden, unexpected, and it just plunged me into deep grief. And
Okay.
about that lasted for about 3 days, and then I heard somebody whisper in my ear. They said, "Be grateful for the time you had together." And that grief, that sadness instantly shifted. And it was what allowed me to carry through it. And you can still
Good.
see I'm a mess. But
Yeah.
it was that
What
was
do you
one of
believe
the
you've
most
lost?
profound lessons that I learned.
What do you believe you've lost?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's having them here, you know. But it was and it was such a shock, but I look back
I
now
get
and
it.
I understand, I
I've
understand.
got some I've got some harder, harsher, wiser truths on that one.
Okay.
But maybe today's not the day to bring them up.
Oh, it's okay.
Go,
I can handle it.
no, go through the integration. I would prefer,
Yep.
if this is very new to you, to go for you to go through the integration process of this and the calibration process of this without necessarily a cutting harsher truth. As we move forward, we work into these truths.
Mhm.
We don't need to, I would rather have the compassion and empathy for you, beautiful sister, in this moment than give you a harder truth about what's actually happening. So as you calibrate and refine or integrate this period, then we can look at it from a place afterwards where a higher representation of what's just happened can be more readily accepted. But in the process of it, the integration, that isn't necessary. This is
Yeah.
beautiful, and this is an uplift
Yeah,
into a
no,
higher
yeah, no,
viewpoint.
thank you. I get that. And I know that there was a higher purpose, and and that's why I've been able to accept it and just be grateful for it. And I know that there was, I spoke with Rick about it too, and there was definitely um there were some codes that were given to me, there were some codes given to him, there were things that were done. I had a vision of him. It was my cat, my Bengal cat. His name was Silken. And okay, this is going to be, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I got to talk about it. So about concurrently with that, when I started to move into gratitude, I had a vision of him, and it was so funny. He was walking, straight up. He had a little briefcase on that was tethered with a light filament, and he was walking into a boardroom that was all white, like you couldn't see any walls or anything, right? And he sat down at a table, and there were 40 other cats around the table, all sitting there waiting for him. And he put his briefcase on the table, untethered the light filament, opened it up, passed all these papers around to all these beautiful feline beings, and they're all sitting there going, "Oh, yeah, And then he closes his briefcase, puts it back on the ground, puts his paws on the table, and says, "Right, I'm back now. Let's get on with it."
There you go. What a beautiful story of release and experience. So the soul of the Bengal cat, I forget the name,
Silken. Yeah.
is Silken.
Silken. That was his name. He told me his name.
Beautiful.
It was Silken.
Beautiful. So the soul has been released back to where that soul is. Now, bearing in mind all is one, you've lost nothing.
No.
And in respect to the release of the soul, the one that wishes it back here is you.
Yeah.
So
Oh
really,
no, no,
you,
no, I don't. I know he's in a better place. No, I do.
yes, let
And
him
2 days.
be, man.
No, yeah.
Go through your
And two,
process.
yeah, exactly. I got to go through, which is okay. But and 2 days
Yes,
before he left, he was staring at the ceiling, like at the corner in the kitchen, and I'm like, Silken, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? And he wouldn't respond to me. He was fixated for about half an hour. So it's like he got his marching orders, and he was gone within 48 hours. So
yes.
I know there are bigger things involved here. I'm just processing,
His
for
soul,
anybody
his soul
else.
choice was to leave,
Yeah, that's right. He's done. He did
yes,
his thing. He's out of here. And I get it. But I think what I'm trying to do here for anybody that's watching who's lost a pet or who's anybody that they love, it's like, yeah, go through your grieving process, get into the gratitude, and then get into the understanding of what the bigger picture was, because then you can really process that much faster than if you stay in the grieving process for a long, long time, right?
yes. The overview, the
So,
overstanding
yeah,
rather than the understanding. The under is a
exactly.
very small place of survival mechanism, a small bubble, but the overview is the release. There's the freedom in that. There's the trust and the faith to be able to do it. There's a bigger meaning here than I can conceive. I can accept that. Okay, thank you.
Yes,
In
exactly.
any action, there's more here than this can consider. So if I'm thinking in a limited way or in a small way, let it go. Everything is everything has benevolence. Everything is perfection.
Yeah.
Everything is meaningful. Everything has reason. The only thing that would create a lack of meaning or a lack of perfection is a deceitful mind.
Mhm.
Um, so the heart doesn't do that. The heart doesn't create these stories. The heart is the perfection, the beauty, the love, but the mind can, and that's the deceiver. So if we are deceived, then we limit, we restrict. If we are our hearts and if we are open and acceptant, there's nothing to restrict. There's always a bigger aspect, and we may not understand it, but that doesn't create fear. It creates a beauty, an acceptance, a
Yeah,
truth, a realization,
exactly.
grace, grace. It allows for grace. This is the opposite, which may put dis in front of the grace. So this allows for disgrace and this allows for grace. And the more that we can go into grace, the more, yeah, acceptant and loving everything becomes.
Wow.
Loving, I use the word loving and I mean truthful. When I put the word loving, the more acceptant and truthful we can become, we can embody that which is inconceivable by allowing the inconceivable to exist. And therefore we can move into it. But if we deny it exists, then we're restricting ourselves from it. And yeah, one's maintaining the old and one's enjoying the new
Yeah.
or embodying the new.
Well, that's another beautiful nugget, Lee. That's two now that you've blown me away with. My goodness. All right, I'm checking in. How are you doing? Because we've been going at it for just over an hour now. How are you feeling? Are we
An
nearly
hour, let's do it.
all right?
Let's do, I don't mind. We can do another a bit or we can end it at an hour. No, let's do another half an hour
All
and see
right,
where we
let's do
go.
another half hour, see where we're at. All right. I want to take it in a different direction then. There's a lot of controversy, and of course, there's the negatives like to spin the controversy. But I'm going to just offer you a vision that I received about 6 months ago, and it was because I had asked a few times about what is this flat Earth nonsense. I want to know what's going on here. Anyway, I should have brought, actually, you know what, when I'm cutting the video, I'll put in my the image that I drew, because I was woken up and I kind of drew this thing. And so it was very cryptic. It was a very, very large sphere, upon the top of which is where we find ourselves, and then the rest of it is indefinable. And it was as though there's aspects of it that are alive within, and then there are different dimensionalities encircling it. So it's indefinable. So when the answer that I got is the word round, or is it flat or round, the answer I got was both.
Yep. And there's the simple answer. Both, whatever you wish it to be. It doesn't matter. It's a construct. It's a realm.
Yeah.
But this is in the mind of the believer. You see, we are the creators of creation, and yet we're worried about the shape.
Yeah. Well,
It's whatever shape you want it to be. But the fractal representation, the molecular design is all circular, spherical. In this reality, in this universe, the physics is spherical. It's got a sphere. So all magnetic and molecular design is spherical. The representation of the planet can be flat. Doesn't matter. It's just spherical design that's flat, and it'll be within a sphere of magnetism. We know the electromagnetic or the magnetosphere is circular, as is every magnetic field, because as a spherical frequency, it's a 3D vortex. It's force vectoring inside a third dimensional spectrum. It creates a spherical frequency. The toroidal generation
right.
is a sphere constantly collapsing back on itself to the central point, coming into reality and then back into reality and back, creating the temporal bubble. So
Right.
the universal bubble, the atomic shell, whatever, is a sphere of energy. What that represents in a material form could look flat, could look round, could look triangular, could look anything you wish, because you're the creator of it. What is it? The bigger point is, what does it matter? Well, the NASA's telling us this and it's wrong, and we want to
Yeah.
argue with them. Okay, so you're
Yeah.
creating detail.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
creating detail,
Uh,
and you want to argue about the detail.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
that's part of the agenda, right? To keep us arguing and not actually figuring out the truth from within. So, yeah, the gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, oh, there we go. I've also seen several times now, and I don't think it's because I saw the Matrix, but I'm seeing like I've seen, each time I've seen it, I see deeper and deeper layers of this these falling numbers, these interjecting numbers, sequences, etc., etc. So this is that from what that drawing that I got. So that's the matrix that covers a certain aspect of our reality. So I'm just going to let you go with
Yeah.
that because
No,
I
it's true. It's you can for ones that wish to try it, look up at the sky, preferably at night, without
yeah,
any light pollution, light noise, and don't focus. Allow your eyes to go out of focus, defocus almost at
yeah,
different focal lengths. Focus on things that aren't there. Allow your eyes to come out of focus, and then allow. Don't try to focus in on the defocus.
yeah.
What you'll see is when your eyes go out of focus, you'll see that there's patterns starting to emerge. Don't try and focus in on them.
That's right.
Let the focus come into you rather than you focus on something. Let it focus in to you, and then you'll see plasmatic patterns. You'll see the waves and the interconnectivity of things, the grid work, and also you may start to see falling representations of numbers and codings inside all of this. This is independent. This is individual. Yes, you can. So all I'm saying, although it's not like the Matrix, it doesn't quite
No,
look like
not
that.
like that. Yeah.
It is still similar, and it may be a little bit larger than those very small things that were in the Matrix. There may be a few larger spools, maybe 15 you can see or
Yeah.
20 across your
I
screen.
saw layers and layers and layers and layers. And then this way, this way,
Yeah,
this way, and like weird things flying in and that kind of stuff. And then
yeah,
you're right. And also, because where I live, there's very little light pollution and I see ships and all kinds of stuff, but I can actually see the glitching. It's like things glitch, right?
yeah. If for you in there, perfect environment for you to do that. Sit outside, sky watching, star watching,
Yeah.
stargazing.
Yeah.
But allow your mind to defocus and don't try to control what you see. And
Exactly.
then you'll see snake. That's sort of the old Nokia snake representation. You remember the snake that used to go around and catch things, or little Pac-Man coming in,
Oh yes,
and
yes, yes.
and little things that will come through the vision or through the energy field because you can't see it defined, but you can see the movements and you can pick up this chasing that or these organisms of creation doing that over there, even though you're not quite sure what it is. It's happening. And sometimes this comes in a little bit clearer. So you get to see very, very up close what's going on. And other times it's more representative of an overview. Be it green, I saw a lot of green, like a darker green, almost like an old LCD display of energies that were moving and chasing each other, and they would fly around and doing all sorts of different things. But you just sit there and okay, I don't know what this is. I'm not going to try to define it, but I am going to sit here and observe it without even looking at it and let it show itself to I. I'm not going to try to control it or concern myself about what it factually is. What I'm going to do is just enjoy it, observe it, and let it show me what it wishes, or
Mm-hmm.
let it show I what it wishes to.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and in that release too. So I absolutely agree with you. All of these things are there,
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're there.
evident. All you've got to do is look for them, but they're outside of conceivable narrative. And if you start speaking to your neighbor about the stuff that you're watching in the sky, you might get misinterpreted slightly.
That's okay.
But
I should have a
they're
t-shirt
very,
that says misinterpreted. And as somebody who works
yeah,
as an interpreter for, you know,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
that's a bit
lovely.
of a
But yeah,
paradox.
a lot of this
Yeah.
is very true, and especially to ones that have experienced it to what degree. And I did a lot of this in Denmark about 3 years ago. Not a lot of light pollution there, and spent many dozens to hundreds of hours probably
Mhm.
with a defocused glaze at the night sky, watching that which we can't see, performing creation.
Yeah. Well, and we did touch on it earlier, which is great because the brain cells have brought it back. So if we can talk a little bit about the divine task group within GPMS, and because this is when I first met you. you know,
Yeah.
this is the kind of text messages we were, I saw this and then I saw that and I'm like, oh my God, who is this person? So a little bit about what the transmutations are, and what that kind of because Rick started to explain it to me about the particles and how we can go in there and transform stuff. And if you care to touch on that, I'd love to be able to share that.
The Divine Task Force that we're talking to, this isn't. Let's take away some of the wording. It's a collaborative, collective group, divinely designated, that are working together as a team on the planet. It's one of many. It just happens to be Rick. I'd say Rick's group. Let's call it whatever. This team. It's not. It was never really aligned with GPMS. It's not from GPMS. Initially, the task force, then the group of magic or whatever it was called prior, wasn't not orientated to GPMS, albeit GPMS is as a side to it. So the newer version of this, which I believe you're involved with too, even though it's not part of GPMS, and will keep its name and everything else out of this conversation, is everybody in it now is GPMS, because we've refined to that point. So we're united in that course too, whereas prior it was more individual specialities and other things that were happening. Now we've moved forward to this. The designations of it, we've been doing an awful lot of work individually and as a team. A lot of us oblivious as well as to what work they've been undertaking, but it's still been part of a team. It's just they didn't know they were part of it. Or they were assisting another. That's still, so for instance, the teams that we've had outside assistance from many others. We are oblivious to them, and they are oblivious to us. But it's added, if you will, on the grander scale. It's all known, but here it's not necessary. We each do what we do. So this divine work is ongoing. Rick's video with Barrett does show a lot, go into a lot more detail, and he speaks about this a lot better than I would come at it from much more of a scientific physics way of looking at it. Rick's got much more of a divine representation in the way he speaks to it. So it's the changing of the energy.
I'll put a link in the description
Yes.
to that video for everybody.
Yes. So it's the changing the energetics, the frequency, and the upgrading or upscaling of the frequency, the construct, the representation of Gaia, the conscious energy of the macro collective field of humanity. This is being upgraded through belief systems and removal of those belief systems, and the transmutation of the fear. So fear energy is a dense energy. It's heavy. It's got a heavy weight to it. When we find ones that are maintaining fear or still have fear within them, which is prevalent at the moment, that fear needs to come out, and rather than be resolved, it needs to be transmuted into a higher understanding. So the divine Christed ones, like us, like Rick, are here to see the fear, bring it to light, but then release it through our own vessels with a higher transmutational purpose. So the way of representing this for ones is this is unknown to many people until they get to a certain level. When you approach a conversation with another, when you approach a integration, a connection with another, albeit over the internet, whatever it is, if in that if in that conversation there is fear in the other, and you give the higher, then what we're doing is swapping. So over a period of time or instantly, that fear will come into your field as you give the light. So we take the fear as we give the higher viewpoint, as we give the higher aspect, as we gift it truly, gift, not give. We receive the negativity or the fear from the other into the field. Now, a lot of the time, this may not be actioned. It may just be and then after the conversation, you may feel tired, you may feel drained, and it may take a day or so to recalibrate your own frequency. But it's the negativity from the other, the fear levels of the other, that have been taken by you and transmuted into a higher, and not just left into in reality representing fear or creating fear. So each of us that do this, each of us that empathize with compassion, each of us that we talk to our brothers and sisters, see their restrictions, give them a higher perspective, releasing them from their continuation. We agree at that same time to absorb to a certain degree their negativity, which we then transmute, and therefore releasing that fear, that negative dense energy back into a higher calibration. So it's a recalibration effect that we undertake when offering the higher versions. We receive the lower. It doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to be given. They can transmute it themselves if they choose, if they understand to. They can say that I see, and deal with it themselves on an individual basis. I've only had this happen to I once, where one did, in the moment of realizing his own shame, not project it. He said, no, I realize that what Lee's giving me is beautiful truth. It may be painful for me to hear it or to accept it, but I don't need to give him that. I wonder what would happen if I don't. And I didn't receive that negativity. He actually did it himself. But generally the resistance or the lack of acceptance in the moment, there's that swap. And then they can go away and work on it, and that space is then given to them, if you will. And if they refuse and deny, then they go through another series of it, and back they come again.
It's
but
amazing, Lee. Thank
reasonably,
you so much. Yeah, keep going. We'll finish it. Is there something else?
reasonably, reasonably when ones are more aligned to this work, when ones are, let's say, higher, the higher heart is working. Not the heart that most would talk to, but a higher heart that sits across the chest, almost like a cylinder.
I
And the
call
higher
it the
heart,
sacred heart. I call it the sacred heart.
yes. Okay, beautiful. The cylindrical version, the sacred heart, is open at this point because you're in trust now of your other heart, the lower heart, if you will, or the heart. You trust that, so the higher heart now, and that sacred heart, it munches through this stuff. It doesn't. There's no, it's almost instant transmutation. There's no draining of the self in this. There's an understanding that it's happening, so therefore there's a realization afterwards. Okay, I see. Oh, gone, and off you go again. So it's a very much, but this is a process for each as they undergo this. They must understand and work through that, so they get to that level later. But without the legwork first, that and the trust in the self, and without the work, then the higher heart doesn't do that function, because you still must, until you get to a level where that's autonomous. Again, there's these things that we're talking to of gifts. You recognize them in retrospect.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. I think last question, because it's going to take a little bit, I think, for us to unravel, but I think this is really important for everyone, for all of us listening. The concept of the soul families, the entanglement that we come into in the 3D paradigm, recently I've recently met several individuals, and I mean, I've had the experience of, oh yes, this is a soul connection before, but recently it's like, oh my God, like, but in a very, very positive way. It's like, brother, sister, like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. We're coming together, and it is pure love, like love that I have not experienced in this lifetime. And so I'm wondering if you want to talk a little bit about, because there've been times where I felt, okay, this is a soul connection, but it was horrible. Like I really shouldn't have gone there, because that was like, ugh, that didn't work out so well, right? But now it's like, oh, it's just this expansive feeling, and this it's not even a choice, it's just a flowing together coming together. So has this shifted? How do we get, yeah.
There's a inevitability about it all, right? The the ones you said before that weren't so good, they were because they showed you things.
Mhm.
They may have seemed negative, but they had a positive outcome.
Yeah.
And the ones you're talking to now are more fluent and they can be more exciting at certain layers of consciousness. So if they're not been experienced before, they would feel very good.
Mhm.
But if they're experienced all the time, they would feel normal. So this is where we put that. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's normal. Oh, well, it's not so wonderful. We need something else now that's wonderful. That constantly is looking for something else
Right.
that's up there, that's where we've
Yeah,
got.
yeah, that's
But
the one.
when you're it all the time, it's like, okay. So I see the representation of the excitement, and also the positiveness of the creation that you're putting out, the beauty to which it is that you're pushing it out. I'm more in not miserable. I was going to use the word miserable. I'm it's not miserable. I see it too, the inevitability of it. I just don't project it with such beautiful positivity as you. So yes, this unity and this alignment, this love that you call it, or this acceptance of truth, which I would call it, this beautiful dance of energetics where now there's acceptance and now there's agreement and now there's belief and now there's information and now they know this and now and it's all like amplification. It's negentropic, it multiplicative of the energies. Everybody's paying attention, everybody wants to be there, nobody's in a fight, it's not a competition. It's an agreement. There's an accord. There's what can we do together? How much can we learn? There's an openness rather than a closedness.
Yeah,
There's no ego represented.
exactly.
There's no lower human that's at that table. There's just the higher versions that are dancing and playing and having fun like children, but they don't look like the old style of children that we would have. But they feel it though, in innately, and some will present that differently with the way that they
Yeah,
talk and the way that they
of
are
course.
and the way that they be. And I know it, but I just don't look like it.
Oh, sure
But
you do. I see
these
that.
things
I see you. I see you. I
some
see
others do, some others do. But these things are what we're doing is right now. I had a chat with a brother and sister a bit earlier from South Africa, and they're in South Africa. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful connection, pure. I had a chat a few days ago with another brother in America. We've spoken to many, and these are 2, 3, 4 hours of amplification, just absolute agreement, taking that which is complicated and adding, making it simple, and agreeing to it. The wisdom that is coming in, that is accepted, the philosophical, the metaphysical, the divine presence, the approach of the inconceivable into what another may seem to be inconceivable, and I will give them a picture and they will go, I see it.
Yeah, yeah.
And this connection is incredible, and it's so it lifts everything. But when I'm looking at the dimensional bandwidth that we're in, like a musical tone, like a note, almost, then these move together. So the top of it and the bottom of it. Now, the more that we can say at that top, pushing at the top, in agreement, learning, opening, creating, remembering. The more of us that pay attention to each other, the more of us that are enthralled by what it is that we're talking about in agreement, then we're amplifying that energy and we're
Mhm.
pushing that top up, which is pulling the bottom up, which is lifting all of the dense energy into the light. It must come out to be shed. So
Exactly.
these meetings that you're talking to right now, these alignments are divinely allocated and divinely designed to keep the bandwidth in a progression rather than an overload. So the inevitability of the connection, the inevitability of the unity of those coming together that are divinely allocated and divinely designated to create the right uplift, to meet at the right times, is coming more now into reality quicker. We're seeing it quicker. It's speeding up. The more we do this, the more things lift, and the quicker reality changes. And we're at a time now of very speed, it might not look it, it's subtle on looking at the lower timeline, but the amount of movement on that lower timeline is faster than it's ever been before. And it's likely to pop at any given point. And this is because we keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and we will not tolerate nor accept that which is lesser. So we keep pushing in the areas that are inconceivable, full of fear. These areas are full of fear to those that are fearful.
Yeah.
But to those that aren't, this is where the truth lies.
Oh,
And
exactly.
we all wish for that truth, that love. That's once you're out of fear, once you have no care left, consideration for the old human, the old version, the lower frequency version.
Exactly.
All that's left is purity and love.
Exactly.
And that's what we're towards. So no, a wonderful, wonderful representation of what you've just said in my own way. Yes, yes, and yes.
Exactly. Yesterday we had I'll just say to support what you were saying. Yesterday we had a beautiful 4-hour meeting with Sister Jane and Brother Daniel, and another beautiful sister Magda, she's incredible being. She's out there. A new love. And we were speaking about the Thoth project that Jane wrote, and it was 4 hours, and each one of us, there was never a moment, like all of a sudden these four people come together. There was never a moment when one person went this way and then they went, no, you can't do that. There was never, it was like a lesson in improv. Yes and yes and yes and then we went so far away and then came all the way back to the organic beginning of it. But it took us 4 hours. But what a trip it was. And I noticed there was a couple of times, like you say, the inconceivable. Well, let's say Daniel would say something and I'd be like, oh yeah, we could do that. And then Jane would say, okay, how about this? And I'm, oh yeah, we could do. And then Magda would get, oh yes, we could do that, because I wouldn't have seen it before. Right. And then I might have said something, well, okay, but how about this location? Yes. So it was this yes and yes and yes and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more exciting. And it also felt like it was, if for lack of better words, that it was actually coming together in a like the ether was forming around it, like was becoming real. Our intention was actually creating. I started to feel at the end of that meeting, this is really happening, right? This is really happening.
I'm really I'll give you my my truth on this. I'm really interested to see what happens with this, because my stance on all of this is very different to yours. So in one of keeping your powder dry, in one of allowing for whatever outcome comes, albeit whatever outcome must be released because it's part of this old construct. So I don't necessarily reify, as in make real, that stuff. I was asked today about my representation of Emerald. This is twice today, the Thothian ideologies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so I'm keeping my powder dry on my overview of this to see what happens with let me say it like this. Inside the old group, there were a lot of timelines that were being visited by ones to be released.
Okay.
If I interjected the truth of, let's say, a few truths that we've got, it would kind of negate the need. It would go against their idea that they must do something. And really, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to do what it is that we feel to do and to release that afterwards. So a lot of the things that we could say from a higher, or I could say from a higher perspective, negate another doing something that they're here to do, or they're here to explore. And that's not, there's no point doing that. At a later date, when it's released, they'll be at the point where they could receive that information. But at this point, they're not. So there's no point giving it. Let it happen.
Yeah,
And this
it's
is the
process.
beauty of watching,
Yeah,
the excitement and the growth between. I know what Daniel and Jane are talking about, and it's got nothing to do with that. It's your game, it's your gig. Enjoy that ball, enjoy that
yeah,
sandpit, really have fun in it,
yeah,
and enjoy the magnetism that you're creating inside of it. And in the end, the truth will be what's
yeah,
presented.
exactly.
Um, I'm not interested in the preview of this.
Hmm.
That's all. So when I received the detail of this Thoth, the emerald tablet, show me the truth afterwards, not the
Okay.
detail, not the preview before. So, I'm also very much relaxed now into the idea of let's just observe it rather than have an input to it. So I may be alluding to an input, but it's not negative. I love what these things. But when people ask me a direct question, like I asked a bit earlier, I'll give a bit more of a formal response.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
inside yours, I think that I'm looking forward to the same inside the group. I know that inside the divine group, this is being looked into. Um, Beautiful.
Yeah,
I look into what I look into. You do what you do, and in the
yeah,
end, we'll come to
that's
these
right.
things. So
We're all
I'm
it's
fascinated.
like, if you agree with me or not, I feel like we're all, each one of us has a teeny, teeny, tiny piece of the puzzle, right? And we
Yeah.
bring it together, and that's where the magic is. And that's where, when we go
Yes.
into the Sacred Heart, and all those pieces start to float together in the ethers, and that's when magic happens for me anyway.
It's the joining of the dots. It's the seeing of the picture. It's the
Exactly.
understanding that each is unique and has a part here. If otherwise, there would only be one of us, and there isn't. There's representatives in the millions and the billions. So each has a role. Each has a part. Put the picture together, and you can see the overview, but you don't see the details because each brings them to the
Mhm.
picture. You know what parts go where, kind of, but you don't know what they are and who's going to do them. So you allow it all to happen without needing to control it. And then all of a sudden it becomes clear um, or clearer. And
Mhm.
the clarity then becomes more, as we move forward, you get more clarity, even if it is still opaque. There's an innate knowing of what it should look like, but if somebody asks you what does it look like, you don't know. But it was almost like if somebody showed you a picture,
Exactly.
oh, that's it.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
couldn't tell them what
Oh
it
yeah.
is. But
Yeah.
there's this
Thanks for that. Yeah.
innateness that we are all aware of, an energetic resonance. So with Dan and Jane, going along this Thothian timeline, and this is innate to you. You have a resonance with it. You find enjoyment. You find something in it that's exciting to you. If it was Arthurian for I, or if it was a
Mm.
different representation, maybe I would be more invested. But this isn't mine. This is yours. So again, I'm not going to. Please show me your skills. Please show me
Yeah.
your expertise. I'm not going to get involved in what my thoughts are. My thoughts are irrelevant. I know at the end of it, though, it will have a beautiful outcome, and there will be a defined or more defined, a more clear perspective. So no, I'm very much aligned to let's get that clear perspective rather before we get the conceptual. So what we're having right now is a conceptual talk about
Exactly.
Thoth with an idea of who Thoth was, a
Yep.
concept of what he did, a concept of what the tablets mean. This is all conceived
Yes.
in somebody else's minds. No, I want the inconceivable. I'm looking for the inconceivable. I have a version of the inconceivable,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
And I feel
It's not
that
my.
was actually, it's interesting because that was what we were sort of alluding to, that we don't want to spell it all out for everyone. We want them to bring their own conclusion to what that inconceivable is for them.
Well, we've got to open up the path for perspective. So
Exactly. Yep.
we will have inside the release of the old, we will spell it out to everybody because the truth has to be known to what was.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, so yes, that will be spelled out. But in the faith and the trust, see, these are storylines, these are narratives, these
Mhm.
are already in reality, if you will. So we can spell them out absolutely. But in the faith and the trust of truly what you are, into that which is unknown, that which does not exist in reality. We can't spell it out. This must be individual perspectives. So yeah, there is a spelling out of a lot of this. We are bringing it to reality in a way that every level of consciousness can understand. regardless of the concept prior or the perspective prior, there's a higher truth which everybody which will be undeniable,
Exactly.
um, and therefore spelled out to its. This is what it is, and this is how it is, and this, there's no other way about it. But that must be brought back into reality, if you will. So in the release of the fable, in the release of the tale, in the release of the story, then we can find a fact or a truth, a objective representation rather than a subjective one, and that fits with the whole truth of the universal truths. So more aligned to a pure truth that is without contest, as opposed to a subjective one that can be argued.
Exactly.
So we are doing this. We are doing this. We are focusing it. We are bringing it in to an awful lot of these storylines, these narratives from the past, to refine them, to alter them, to change them, to bring the truth to them, to shine the light on them, to put them to bed, and release them. So, yep, each has their unique individual tasks, their unique individual aspects, frequencies, codes, and each one of those codes plays within the dynamic of the DNA and opens up timeline pathways through remembering, which gives incentive, a divine drive, to get that done. And it's fascinating.
And
Right.
what a beautiful aspect of all of that you are, Lee. You blow my mind every time we have a chat. And thank you so much for everything that you do, for all that you are, for those all those wonderful things that you bring to the table that inspire us all and give us pause to think and to understand. And I certainly am very, very grateful and deeply honored to have the opportunity to have these chats with you for the highest and greatest good of the whole collective through GPMS, from my heart to yours, with great, great, great thanks. GPMS.
You'll make me blush. Thank you so much, beautiful sister. It's a pleasure. Anytime we can open up, anytime. Generally divinely timed right now, because there's layers of information that we bring, apparently, even if it's outside of what I know in this moment. It's still nevertheless divinely timed. So I think it's been about a month since the last.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
3
at
weeks.
least, yeah.
A month. We said we do it in a week. So
Yeah, right.
maybe this one will open up, but we've got a few more coming out, and we know that the divine ones now are starting to walk more of their path. So more of the divine authority, more of the representation of the Christ. And I'm not talking about the physical representation. I'm talking about the energetic representation of the Christ will be seen by many, many more, as this authority is stood in, and divinity and divine law is proclaimed, let's say, on the planet. So as we continue, yes, there'll be more of this, and there'll be more information coming to the table, and more of these beautiful chats, and more beautiful perspectives given by more divine beings that are here acting as one, in unity. But we're not quite there yet. So we're just continuing as we are.
You
Thank
just
you
said my
so much.
favorite word, unity. You just said my favorite word. So be it, and so it is.
And so it is. Yes, that unity, and so it is. Thank you so much, beautiful Renata, for your time and your wonderful, wonderful public personality. Well, energy, your purity. So much love to you, and so much love to all. We got this. We just continue on this path and watch what unfolds very, very shortly. There's lots to come.
There sure is. So be it, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you so much.
Bye for now. Bye.
Bye-bye.